Perfect. Okay, guys, we are live, and I am Danny Williamson. You know that it's Sunday night service, and this is the one and only Kevin Ellis, the bone coach. Now, I met him, I don't know, last year probably through our mastermind and our mind share, and I'm blown away because look at this guy. Look at him. He looks like he's not even 30 years old, but at age 30, he was diagnosed with osteoporosis, right?
Right.
Yeah. And
Right.
so as you guys get logged on, I want you to tell us where you're from and post your questions up here and I will share them. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kevin first while you're getting logged on. Share this with your tribe immediately because I'm going to tell you something. You're going to want to hear this tonight for sure. If you are a woman who is in her 40s or 50s or 60s, like I am, well, not my 60s, Lord have mercy. But anyway, you're going to want to share this. So let me tell you, he's known as the bone coach, which makes me smile every time I say it. He's a Forbes featured certified integrative nutrition health coach, podcaster, YouTuber, bone health advocate, and is the founder of bonecoach.com. Through a unique 3-step process and a world-class coaching program, he and his team have helped thousands of people, thousands of people worldwide and in over 1,500 cities worldwide get confident in their stronger bone plan. His mission is to not just help 1 million plus people around the globe build better bones, it's to help our children and our grandchildren prevent osteoporosis and other diseases in the future so that they can lead long, active lives. That's right. Our mission, my mission, I say this all the time, is to change the trajectory of these families' lives, the generational trajectory. So Kevin is on a mission and he's doing it. I cannot wait for you guys to listen to him tonight. He's a rock star. So 30 more seconds while you all are logging on. I'm going to give you a couple statistics, but not much because he's got all the info out there. Do you know that 1/2 of women and 1/4 of men over the age of 50 will break a bone due to osteoporosis? 1/2 of all women. I mean, that's unbelievable to me. Worldwide, 8.9 million osteoporosis related fractures a year. Currently, 1.9 million of those are hip fractures. It's predicted that by 2050, there will be 6.3 million hip fractures alone each year. It's no longer a skinny white woman's disease. You know, that's what I always tell people who gets osteoporosis. Skinny white women, the Sally Fields of the world, right? Because she does the Boniva, whatever, commercial on TV, but that's not true. It's anyone right now. So Kevin is going to lead us off here. Kevin, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I know you're busy. He's crazy busy in St. Louis, right? You're in St. Louis.
I'm in St. Danny, I love your energy. From the minute we met, I was like, it's my kind of person. You're on my level here, so I love it.
I know. Let me tell you, he's something. He's a powerhouse of a speaker, but what he's doing to change the trajectory of all of our lives and he's a young man. Tell us your story, Kevin. Tell us, how did you even get interested in bone health?
Yeah, and I could even like a lot of people that are in the health field, my personal journey started out with my own health issues, but I would even take it back to when I was a lot younger. When my mother was 5 months pregnant with me, my father was told he had cancer. 2 months after I was born, he passed away. He was 35 years old at that time. He was a Marine. He did 22 months in Vietnam, survived combat, but he came back home. He got cancer from Agent Orange and he passed away. So when I was a young kid, I knew growing up I was going to be a Marine. I was going to be a really good Marine. And I went into the Marine Corps. And after I got out, I started having all these different health issues, poor sleep, high stress. Some days I could barely even wake up, didn't even have the energy to get out of bed.
What?
And then I was actually diagnosed with celiac disease. So I was malabsorbing nutrients for many, many years. And for those who don't know what celiac disease is, it's an autoimmune condition where when you ingest gluten, it damages your tiny little absorption centers in your small intestine called villi, and it blunts them. It wears them down to the point where they can't actually do their job. And that was happening to me. And then what was happening was, as I was going about doing my daily activities and living my life, I didn't know I wasn't absorbing those minerals and nutrients and all those things that I needed to support not just a healthy body, but healthy bones. So what was happening was those minerals and nutrients were being raked from my bones to serve other purposes of my body. And then I was subsequently diagnosed with osteoporosis at a very young age. And, that at that time, the biggest fear for me, I was shocked. Number one, I got a letter in the mail that said, go on a gluten-free diet. You have osteoporosis, go on a gluten-free diet. Didn't even get a phone call, nothing like that. It was just a letter in the mail. And I was shocked. And I really didn't know how to move forward from this. And I first wanted to confirm that it was in fact true. So I got a second opinion, confirmed it was in fact osteoporosis. And then I was really like, okay, what do I need to do here? Because I had young kids that were on the way and I was scared. I thought I was heading down that same path as my father, who passed away at a super, super young age. So my greatest reason for taking action was to be the father mine didn't get the chance to be for me. So I had a really strong motivation. So I started doing a lot of research and reading and consulting with a lot of people, spent a lot of money on different foods and supplements. And I started finally getting the right plan in place for me and improving my health, improving my bones. And when I started getting that plan in place, I realized something really interesting. It's not the average 30-year-old male that's diagnosed with osteoporosis. Exactly what you said earlier. It's the woman, 40s, 50s, 60 plus, that gets diagnosed and is presented with 4 options: calcium, vitamin D, go for a walk, take a bone drug. And I will tell you right now, that's woefully inadequate. And it's for that reason that I started Bone Coach and bonecoach.com.
Guys, I love this guy now. I mean, he is on fire. I cannot wait. Okay, so we know why you started it. We're going to learn what you do here in a minute, but let's just, for people who don't know, because there's probably people on here, osteoporosis, osteopenia, those are the 2 big ones. What are they? And what are they?
Yeah, so osteoporosis literally means porous bone, right? Mm-hmm. It's a condition characterized by either not enough bone formation, excessive bone loss, or it's a combination of the 2 of those things. And in osteoporosis, both your bone density and your bone quality are reduced. And that's going to increase your risk of fracture. And you were talking about some of those statistics earlier, and that it's a very real thing. It's something that is definitely important. And the way you find out you have osteoporosis is through what's called a DEXA scan. That's dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. It's a painless test, kind of like an X-ray, but very, very low levels of radiation. You lay down on the machine does a scan, and it tells you your bone mineral density, which is the measure of how much bone you have, the actual mineral content of your bone. And then what it does is it generates a score. And that score is called a T-score. And the T-score is telling you how much your bone mass differs from that of a healthy, approximately 30-year-old adult. Now, if you're +1 or -1 or 0, that's considered normal and healthy, right? If you're -1 to -2.5 T-score, that's considered osteopenia, also called low bone mass. And then if you're -2.5 or lower, so -2.6, -2.7, so on and so forth, that's considered osteoporosis. The greater that negative number becomes, the more severe the osteoporosis. Most people are going to get these scans done as a check in the box when they're 50s or 60s, but that's too late, in my opinion, right? So if you're listening to this right now and you have not had a bone density scan done, number one, you need to go get one. And don't, especially if you have osteoporosis in your family, but even if you don't, right? Like if you saw your mother or your grandmother or somebody that had osteoporosis that started hunch over or had some fractures and things like that, it's really important to do that. Genetics do play a role, but that's not the only part of the picture. But if you, even if you have other health issues, or it's just a good idea to go get that. And the last note I'll make about that is we don't want to avoid doing something because we might not want to know what the results mean
Yeah.
or
Do
what they
you
tell
know?
us. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, wow. What causes it? When, okay, here's a question. When is our bone density the best, the strongest? When do we have the strongest bones, and what causes osteoporosis or osteopenia? Why do they
Great.
start to weaken?
Yeah, great question. So, up to, think back when you were a kid, right? Up to 90% of your bone mass is put on by the time you turn age 18. And by the time you turn 30, the remaining 10% approximately fills in. So by the time you turn 30, your bucket, as I like to call it, is about as full as it's going to be. But if when you were younger, you had poor diet and nutrition, if you had an eating disorder, if you had digestive issues, you led a sedentary lifestyle, you took certain medications, you drank or smoked excessively, all of those things could have prevented you from reaching peak bone mass and starting with a full bucket. Okay, so that's one of the most important things to keep in mind.
Okay.
Now, when we're talking about osteoporosis and what causes it and what are the contributors to it, a lot of people don't know this. There are two different types of osteoporosis. There's primary osteoporosis.
Okay.
That's related to a decrease in estrogen in postmenopausal women, right? Estrogen has a protective effect on bone. When estrogen levels decrease, as they do during menopause, that's going to cause an increase in the activity level of cells that break down bone. But then there's a whole nother cause of osteoporosis. That's called secondary osteoporosis. And that's where it occurs as a result of behaviors, disorders, diseases, medications, different conditions. That is the category I fell into, right? Celiac disease, malabsorbing nutrients. And a lot of times when somebody is 30s, 40s, 50s, we've worked with people as low as their late 20s also, but there's a secondary cause. And the other note I want to make there is, a lot of times when somebody's diagnosed in their 50s or 60s, a lot of times their doctors will say, it's just hormones. This is a natural part of the aging process. And then here's your medication. Whoa. Okay. Just because you're a postmenopausal woman does not mean that is the sole cause of your bone loss. There could be more than just hormones. There could be another cause. And we don't want to make assumptions. We want to make objective decisions.
You are preaching my language over here. That's
exactly
right. So, okay. So, I'm a huge believer in, okay, we know about primary and secondary. We know some of the things that cause it. Here's one thing that Marcy Bissinger taught me whenever she was on here, and she did that summit as kids. And I am certain that you are doing this with your children. Mm-hmm. You need them tumbling, jumping rope. Hopscotch, anything that's going to pound bone on bone, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because your bones need different types of stimuli to become stronger, right? You need muscle pulling on bone and you need impact. So when muscle pulls on bone, what happens is that mechanical signal is sending a chemical signal for those bones to become stronger. But then there's also impact. Now, for impact, what you were just talking about is some of the people that have the highest bone density, gymnasts are a great example.
Yes.
Soccer players, like their leg bone density, that those quick, sharp, fast movements in multi-directional, those impacts, those things are going to lead to an increase in bone density. And improve bone strength. So those are great things. And especially from the young age, if you've got kids or grandkids, my kids are in gymnastics, both of them, they both love it. And those forces can really help their developing bones from a young age too.
What about those of us that are in the 50s and we're not on? Now, I was diagnosed with osteopenia 4 or 5 years ago, and I have yet to redo my bone density. I've got the order on the refrigerator, but I'm going to now because of you. I'm going to go get it done. What can we do? We may get into medicine and on. I know you're not. What can we do other than medicine? How about that? At our age? And we're going to talk about gut health in a minute because gut is my thing. But what can we do? Is walking enough?
Walking is not enough. I'll tell you that
Absolutely not. I was hoping you'd say that
I
because I
will
tell
tell
you,
you that right now. Walking is it's something it's good for our health, right?
sure,
If you're walking, keep doing it, right? It's
keep
great for
walking.
your health.
That's
But
right.
if you're going to bet that it's going to improve your bone density, that's you're not going to have the impact that you're looking for there. Okay.
Okay.
Now, it's important to do weight bearing exercise, and weight bearing exercise is anything that where your muscles and your bones are working against gravity to keep you upright, and you're basically doing these things on your feet. That's placing good stress on your bones. So this would be your running and jogging and hiking and dancing and gardening and playing tennis or soccer or jumping rope, all those kinds of things. Those are all weight bearing exercises.
Okay.
Now, what's non-weight bearing exercise? Non-weight bearing exercise would be like cycling or kayaking or swimming. All of those things. Now, you may enjoy those things, and that's great. If they bring you joy, that make you happy, that reduce your stress, keep doing them, right? Don't overdo it, but keep doing them. But don't count on those things as your only form of exercise. Okay. The reason why is they're not placing that stress on your bones that you need. So if you're getting in the pool every day and you're doing some laps and you get out and you're like, gosh, I got my exercise done for the day, you did not. Okay. You did in one sense because you helped work out your cardiovascular health and maybe your muscles a little bit, but you didn't place that stress on your bones. Okay, so the next thing we need to incorporate then would be resistance training, muscle strengthening exercise, and that's where you're bringing in maybe some resistance bands, and then
Okay.
all. Okay, what you got?
Keep talking. No, nothing. I thought I had them in here. Daggone it. I just ordered
It's
a
okay.
whole bunch. I got them. I've been walking around. I've been putting my makeup on in the morning, doing squats with, it's probably why I look so crazy, with my bands on. I've been, yeah, okay, keep talking. I was
Yeah,
trying
so
to find them, but they're not in here.
that's okay. Yeah, so resistance training is great,
Okay.
but then also free weights,
Yes.
barbell weights, these kinds of things. Now, Dr. Belinda Beck, she did something called the Lift More trial. She's done extensive research in this area. She found that overhead press, deadlifts, squats, chin-ups with drop landings, those kinds of movements, those can be really good, and they're safe and effective, can be safe and effective too. So now, if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with how to work out properly, right, does not mean you go watch a YouTube video that shows you how to deadlift and go try to execute this on your own. You need to have somebody evaluate your body mechanics. You need to make sure that you can slowly start progressing up to the intensity. This is the key part here, to the intensity that's going to be best for your bone health.
Okay.
If you've got 2-pound weights and you're doing 100 reps, that's not going to do it. Okay. If you want to be in that 5 to 10 rep range, that level of intensity is where you want to be at. But you want to slowly progress up. You want to have good form. You want to do things the right way so it doesn't lead to injury too. So that's really, really important. And the last note I want to make on that is when you're doing exercise, it's not like if you get 1 or 2 really good workouts in that's going to be, in a 2-week period, that's going to be enough. Bone remodeling is a very slow process. So that's one of the reasons why bone density scans are only done every 1 year, 2 years or so, because bone takes a long time to respond and remodel. So you can actually see those kinds of improvements over time. So exercise is very, very important. Has to be part of your plan.
Okay, that's a piece of it. What's the standard protocol for exercise? I mean, for bone health, the standard protocol. I mean, it's medicine. Am I right? I mean, I know I'm right on this one, but what? Yeah.
Standard
What
protocol. Calcium. Standard protocol is almost always medication. That's almost always recommended. But sometimes, physicians will say calcium, vitamin D, and walking. Right now, with medications, I would say the majority of people we work with and the ways in which we're focused on helping people are through a natural approach, right? We're focused 85, 90% of people we're working with, they're trying to do everything they possibly can naturally first, before ever considering something like that as an option. Now, what are the different medications that are out there? And you may be listening to this and you may have already heard of some of these medications. So there are 2 different types of medications. There are anti-resorptives and anabolics. And what I'll say about these two types of bone drugs is that they have a dramatic effect on bone physiology. This is not like taking an aspirin, okay? So your anti-resorptive medications, these are medications that are designed to slow down the activity level of cells that break down bone, okay? That would be your bisphosphonates, like Fosamax. That would be your rank ligand inhibitors, like Prolia, okay? Those are your two that you probably heard the most frequently. And then there's anabolics. And these medications are designed to build bone, better quality bone, and build it faster. And that would be your Forteo, your Tymlos, your Avinity. So if you've heard of those medications, those are anabolics, and that's the whole role of those. A lot of times people will be recommended anabolics if they've already fractured multiple times or if they have really poor quality bone. Okay. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that for bisphosphonates, for example, the safety and efficacy of those drugs is not really well known beyond 5 years. And also what happens is that we were just talking about exercise, right? For everybody, whether you have osteopenia, osteoporosis or not, as you're going about your life, you're doing your daily activities, all of us are starting to get these tiny little micro cracks, in our bones. That's normal. And then what happens is you have these cells called osteoclasts that come in and they scoop out that damaged, worn, weakened bone. And then what happens is there's these bone building cells that come in right behind it called osteoblasts, and they lay down stronger, healthier bone. So you have to have this process. It's normal, happens for everybody. But it's a coupled process. So when you slow down the activity level of those cells that break down bone too much, you're not going to have that stronger, healthier bone that's filled in later on. And you're going to start to accumulate those tiny little micro cracks and fractures. And that over time can lead to bones that are not as healthy and strong. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. And then also the last note I'll make, there are plenty of side effects. I won't go through all those. But the last note I want to make about some of these medications is that a lot of times when you start one, it's going to lead to another one at some point in the future. Okay, so just keep those things in mind. So when a medication is recommended, and I'm not like, if you're at this decision point right now, number one, you need to be a little more educated about what's going on here. So pause, take a deep breath. Don't just jump in and make a decision that could dramatically affect things, for the next couple of years. You've got some time, right? Take some time, make an educated decision, get all the information you need to move forward confidently.
Is it guaranteed if you have osteoporosis or osteopenia that you're going to have a fracture? I wonder what the numbers are. You know that. I don't know.
Yeah, no. And great question. So we were just talking about earlier, when you get a bone density scan, right? When you get a DEXA scan, that tells you your bone density, the measure of how much bone you have. But the other part of the picture that a lot of people don't have is their bone quality. Bone density and bone quality combine to create bone strength. So bone quality is like the structural integrity of that bone, the microarchitecture, how that bone is organized. The bone density and the bone quality combined are the things that really lead to bone strength. So there is a test that is an add-on to that bone density software, or DEXA. It's called TBS, trabecular bone score. And this technology can actually tell you the quality of your bone. Okay, so they're not at every location, but if they are near you, you call the facility, you ask, see if they have TBS technology. And that way, when you get your DEXA scan, you can get that full picture all at once. You can understand your bone density and your bone quality. So that's great to have both of those pieces because it helps you make better informed decisions.
So not every place radiology center and all that who does a DEXA necessarily does a TBS. So
and they won't necessarily have it. They won't necessarily have it either as an add-on to their machines. So you gotta call around and ask and things like that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, listen, before we get into something else, I want to talk to you about bone health. Catherine says, I suffered a life-changing femur total fracture after being on Fosamax for 7 years. I then injected Forteo every night into my belly or thigh for 18 months. Catherine, I didn't know that about you. Wow.
Catherine, Oh, sorry, Danny.
No, you.
I got something I want to add there. Well, number one, I'm sorry to hear that. Right, and unfortunately, it's not the first time I've heard that. But what's really important in your situation is understanding right now, and it's harder. You're on an anabolic medication, right? And what that anabolic medication is doing is it's trying to help you build bone, build better quality bone, build it faster. And what you have to be aware of is that when you're finished with that medication, it has to be followed, and I mean must be followed, with another medication. It has to be followed with an anti-resorptive medication, because what happens with this drug and any of these anabolics is it speeds up the activity level of cells that build bone and build it faster. But what happens is it also speeds up the activity level of cells that break down bone. And when you reach a certain point, you're also going to have, when that medication comes to that time when you have to stop, you're going to have the activity level of cells that are breaking down bone go higher. And you're going to have to, follow that with another medication, at least for a short period of time. So just be aware of that. I have a lot of people that come to me that said, oh, I was on Forteo for X number of time, and that drug is designed to help you build more bone. And then they didn't ever follow it with anything. You lose everything that you gained. Okay. So these are things people just, nobody educates you on these things. It's unfortunate, but I hope you're take a note here on this. Okay.
No, we have one nurse practitioner in this town in Nashville, Hillary Hatcher. I've had her on here before. We graduated actually nurse practitioner school together. That's all she does. She actually works in a neurology clinic, which is interesting. And she only does osteopenia, bone health. That's what she does. I send all my people to her because now she's not all natural, but she understands the combination of Forteo and Fosamax and weight training and vitamin K27 and things like that. They're going to pull calcium out of the arteries and lay it down on the bones. So Catherine, Catherine, I had no idea about that. I hate that. Wait. What'd she say? I stopped taking the Forteo about 7 years ago. The doctor has never put me on anything else. So she was on Fosamax, had a horrible femur fracture on Fosamax, and then it went to Forteo and stopped that 7 years ago.
So now what has to happen, Catherine, I believe, is
yes.
Number one, you have to figure out right now, and this is for everybody listening, right? When you get a bone density scan done, what's happening is it tells you what your bone density is at that point in time. But you cannot, from a single bone density scan, you can't tell if you're still actively losing bone right now, right? That's where something called bone turnover markers come in. Now, bone turnover markers are tests that tell you the activity level of cells that are breaking down and building up bone in your body. So what are the different tests you can do? So the first one is called the serum CTX test. Write this down: serum TCX or CT low peptide test. And this is the most sensitive marker for bone resorption. That's bone breakdown. And what this test tells you is it tells you the activity level of cells that are breaking down bone. Basically, what happens is your bones have these collagen protein. It's a collagen protein matrix structure. And as you start to lose bone, that it's not like you're selectively pulling calcium out of the bone. It's actually tearing down that whole collagen structure too. So this test is picking up, that activity level basically. So that's going to be one helpful test. And if that activity level is elevated, that can be an indicator of active bone loss. So everybody here needs to get that test done.
That's a blood draw?
That's a blood draw. Okay.
I've never even drawn that. And I draw so much blood. Serum CTS. T like turkey.
TX.
Oh, CTX. Okay, because I'm getting ready to type this in.
CT low peptide. Yep, CT low peptide. It's also called beta cross labs. There are a couple other different names of that test, but that's the first one. Okay. There's also something called an NTX, an NT low peptide test. Now, there's a serum version. I prefer the urine version of that, second urine of the day. And this test also looks at the activity level cells that break down bone. Okay. And then once you get that side of the picture, the bone breakdown side of the picture. You also want to get the bone building side of the picture too, the bone formation side. And there's a test called P1NP, procollagen type 1 N-terminal propeptide. That is the most sensitive marker for bone formation. And that's a great test to get. And that way you get the whole picture when you do those labs first thing in the morning while fasted. Okay.
Is that a blood draw or a urine test?
That's a blood also.
Yeah. So P1NP is a sensitive marker for bone
formation. Yeah. There are some other ones too.
I don't know. And that's a urine test.
That P1NP is a blood test.
What test?
Is a blood test. Now there's also some other tests for bone formation. There's osteocalcin. There's bone specific alkaline phosphatase. Now if you go and you get any blood work, and most people here have had a comprehensive metabolic panel before. You may have not heard that name, but you may have seen CMP on your blood test results before. In that CMP, there's usually a test called alkaline phosphatase.
Yes.
In that comprehensive metabolic panel. Now, if there's an elevation there, it can be coming from a few different sources. One of which could be the gut, could be the liver, could also be the bone, right? So bone specific alkaline phosphatase can be a helpful test there also. So those are just some of, I mean, there are a lot of tests that are really important for bone health, but these are some of the ones that I would encourage people to get.
Okay. Well, before we get on to guts, because I've been wanting to get on to that. So we talked about pharmaceuticals. What do you think? Okay, calcium. Do you take calcium? I mean, I don't know. I don't recommend calcium much. I do have some, but not much. I think K27, in Japan. Is it Japan?
Japan, yep. They use 45,000 milligrams as a treatment for osteoporosis of MK4, though. That's vitamin K2, MK4. And they use it, with MK4, it's smaller doses. So it's, 15,000 milligrams 3 times a day. But that's not like a recommendation for me right now, by the way, for everybody.
Right. Yeah, we got to be careful.
I'm not trying to be your practitioner here, so always consult with your healthcare provider before you go make decisions like that. But that's just something that studies have shown have been helpful in Japan. But yeah, in terms of calcium and other nutrients and things like that, when I'm talking to people, we're always trying to first, how can we maximize the nutrients we're getting through diet and nutrition first? Right? That's the first place we need to go. And then once we do that, what do the gaps look like for us? And then also, what are our own biochemical and genetically unique needs? And how can we address that through supplementation as well? So diet, nutrition first and foremost, always. But yes, sometimes to close those gaps, you might need to supplement, right? Supplementation may be okay. MCHC, calcium, any of the forms of calcium that are paired with amino acids too, like a citrate or a malate or something like that. Those are going to be easily absorbed forms of calcium. And then in terms of gut health, I know you just touched on gut health too. This is super, super important. So we're talking about nutrients, right? Healthy bones are not built by what you eat. They are built by what you absorb. Okay. So what you have to understand is that if you think of our bodies and bones as being like plants, okay, in order to grow, they need nutrients in the right conditions, right? Most people focus so much on the salads, the smoothies, the supplements that they fail to consider the soil. And your gut is like the soil. You absorb almost everything here. So when you take in food and nutrients through your mouth, you're going to chew those up. You're going to start to break it down into smaller pieces. It's going to make its way into your stomach where it's churned in this acidic mix to break it down even further. And then what's going to happen is it's going to make its way into your small intestine, which is your soil. And your soil is where everything is absorbed there, right? The food and nutrients are broken down to their smallest form to be absorbed by us, the plants.
That's right.
But in order to absorb anything, you have to have roots in your soil. And the roots are called villi, right?
Yes.
Villi are these tiny little hair-like projections that cover our small intestine, and they're responsible for absorbing the food, the nutrients from the food you eat.
Yes.
And what they do is they absorb those nutrients, and those nutrients are shuttled to where they're needed in the body, whether that's healing a cut on your hand, growing your hair or your fingernails. Mine's not working out too well.
Mine's working.
I cut this.
Mine's working.
But, or it's to rebuild stronger bones, right? The job of these villi is so important that the total surface area they use to absorb nutrients is the size of a football field.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing? That is amazing. But if you've got poor digestive health and you're not able to properly break down and extract those nutrients from your food, those nutrients aren't going to be available, and you're not going to have what you need for your body, your bones, and your health, right? So digestive health is super, super important. And then one of the things that I always want to bring up with people is that like if you have bloating, belching, burping, gas, constipation, diarrhea, IBS, those are some indicators that you've got, issues. But if you also have heartburn or indigestion, that a lot of times people take Tums, proton pump inhibitors, A2 receptor antagonist drugs. So we're talking about your Prevacid, your Nexium, your Prilosec, your omeprazole, all those drugs. Those drugs are designed to suppress your stomach acid. And a lot of people, when they have, acid reflux and things like that, they actually have too little stomach acid. So we end up going and suppressing what little stomach acid we do have. Why is that a problem? Because you need stomach acid to properly break down and extract nutrients from your food, right? Like amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. Your bones are 50% protein by volume, so they need a constant supply of amino acids. Calcium, magnesium, iron, B12. If you have low stomach acid, your body, your bones are going to be starved of those nutrients and other ones too. So, and there's just some research that shows PPIs and stuff long term, they're not going to be good for your body or your bones. So keep that in mind.
Alzheimer's. Dementia and Alzheimer's are a big one. My mom's been on Nexium for probably 20 years, and she has Alzheimer's. And so I've been, and I cannot tell you how many patients come in who've been on Nexium, something that is designed, and it says on the back of the box, right? 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. No more really than 14, 21 days should you ever be on something like Nexium or Prilosec. And our patients have been on it for years. Isn't that something? What about sodas? We live in the South, and in the South, they drink, Mountain Dew. Where my son is in medical school, Mountain Dew is like the local water there. What about sodas? What are they going to do to your body?
No. We don't want sodas. If they're in your diet right now, get them out. Get them out. Don't even look back. Focus on, something else to add there. But let me say a few reasons for that. Phosphoric acid is gonna leach nutrients from your bones, and then also, I'm sure you've heard this many, many times before. Sugar. Reducing your sugar intake, it's vital for bone health, because sugar is going to damage your bone by triggering an inflammatory response. It's going to lower your vitamin D levels. It's going to deplete your bone healthy minerals like calcium, magnesium, chromium, copper. And then it inhibits intestinal absorption of calcium. So here you are, you're depleting your calcium, and then you're preventing the absorption of additional nutrients. And then the last part, and this is a really big one that a lot of people don't know, is it blocks the absorption of vitamin C. Vitamin C is key for maintaining and building a healthy skeleton. So you have to understand it. When I'm talking about sugar, I'm not just talking about, soda sugar or, that white Domino's cane sugar that a lot of us are familiar with from, when we were kids. That's not the only kind of sugar. It's your breads, your cakes, your cookies, your crackers, your pizzas, your pastas, all that stuff that breaks down turns into sugar too. So what we want to do is we just want to find better alternatives for that. And it doesn't have to happen all at once, right? Start slowly making those swaps and adjustments over time. And that's what's going to lead to, better improvements long-term.
You're so good. At 39 minutes of just straight up, people's mouths are falling open. I'm watching this over here on Facebook. Yes. You Facebook user, don't know why it's not popping up here. Reducing sugar is vital for bone health.
Yes.
wait to share that one. In the South, I mean, it's hard, and I said, do not drink another soda after tonight. Y'all are going to hate me.
Don't do it.
There's
Do
not
not do
one
it.
thing that a soda helps. It does destroy your bones, but also everything else. But I mean, it's just terrible for you. It's like cigarette smoking. I have never once said, please go smoke 4 cigarettes a day. It's going to help your bones. It's going to help your brain. It's going to help it. Never. The same thing with soda.
Cigarettes. So when I was in the Marine Corps, and I was in the infantry when I was in the Marine Corps. So my last combat deployment, I finished in like 2009. And I remember on that deployment, because things were stressful at times, I remember there was one point where I was smoking up to 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, right? You wouldn't believe it. But I smoked for, a couple years actually. And I don't regret many things, but I regret that. If there's one thing I probably would not have done, I probably would have drank less when I was younger. And I probably would have, because I don't really drink that much now. And then I definitely would never have smoked cigarettes. So if you're doing that now, stop. Not good for your bones either.
Oh, no, it's terrible. It's terrible. Cheryl wants to know what vitamins you were talking about, and I can post that up here as well, Cheryl. D3, some calcium. I mean, it's got to be a good calcium, though, because calcium can build up in the arteries, and we don't want any of that going on, right? D3.
Yeah.
D3.
Yeah. So what happens is when you take vitamin D is not something like, it's super, super important. Okay. So vitamin D, it's one of the most important nutrients for your overall health, for your bone health. It acts as a powerful hormone in your body, right? And it's induces the transcription of about 50 genes. Okay. So it's crazy. It's got a lot of great function, and it's going to help support your bone health. But this is not a supplement that you just supplement with blindly. Okay.
That's right.
You always need to test your 25 hydroxy vitamin D levels first. That's the first thing you have to do. And then, if you're in the summertime and you're out and you're getting some sun on your skin, especially midday sun, with those the good sunlight that you want to get, that can actually have a positive impact. That's going to be your best source of vitamin D. But that's not where you're slathered up with chemical laden sunscreen, right? You want to get your sun on your skin to the point right before you would probably burn, right? So you don't, or before you're turning red. So, and then that's the point where you put on a mineral-based sunscreen. Okay. So that's going to help with your natural vitamin D production. Then, if you are monitoring your levels and you need your levels to be a little bit higher, because there could be a conversion issue, there could be something else happening or taking place. You could help with some supplementation too. Okay. And then also your needs for vitamin D in the wintertime, especially, they're probably going to be a little bit higher from a supplementation standpoint, because the sun's rays in those colder weather months, they're not going to be strong enough to generate enough vitamin D production. So you would at that point supplement with a little bit more, monitor your levels, absolutely monitor them on an ongoing basis. But when you supplement with vitamin D, that's increasing your intestinal absorption of calcium. So if you're supplementing with calcium, you have to make sure you're taking the other nutrients that are important too. Now, we talked about vitamin K2, right? That's super important for bone mineralization. It's activating osteocalcin, which is that marker that we talked about earlier. But it's also making sure that calcium does not end up in your soft tissues and that it ends up in your bones, right? So we don't want it in the kidneys, the arteries, those kinds of things. But then there are other sources. There's different sources for K2, right? Your best source of K2, especially the MK7 form, is going to be something called natto. Most people are not going to want to tolerate this. Most people are probably not going to eat this, especially if you're in the South and we're having trouble getting over Mountain Dew. You're not going to be reaching for natto. Let's be real. Let's be real. But yeah, it can be found in hard cheeses, fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, even bacterial. This is really interesting. Bacterial fermentation in the gut can also lead to the production of these vitamins too. So, and then vitamin K2, MK4, that can be found in things like beef liver,
Yes.
grass-fed ghee, and it's smaller amounts in these, but grass-fed ghee, dark meat chicken, pastured egg yolks, those can be other sources. And then vitamin K1, which is the other form of vitamin K that we want to focus on. That's going to be found in your dark green veggies and your asparagus and your kale and your broccoli and all that stuff too. So, and vitamin K1 is going to be super important also.
Amen to that. Guys, you see why I love him. Is Caltrate good? I'm not a huge fan of Caltrate, Karen, but I mean, Kevin, I don't know. I don't even know.
I'm not looking at a label right now, but anytime, like a lot of times when people have, especially if it's like a hard, solid pill or
That's
something
right.
like that, number one, you're probably not going to absorb all the nutrients you think you're intending to absorb. Number two, calcium. A lot of people don't know that your body's only going to take in about 500-ish, 550 milligrams at a time. So if you're taking 1,000 milligrams of calcium at a time, that's not a good thing. You don't want to be doing that. And then also, again, how can we first try to maximize that through our food? One of my favorite foods to incorporate is sardines, mackerel, or wild sockeye salmon. And in the can, right? In the can with the bones in, that's going to have, and they're not hard, pokey bones that are going to hurt your mouth. They almost, as non-appetizing as it sounds, they almost melt in your mouth.
I love it. See, I grew up with salmon patties. You know, I'm from Western Kentucky. So my mom made salmon patties, and I love those bones. I don't know why. They're not like real bones. So
but here's why they're great. And ancient civilizations have used bones, like pulverized bones before, to make sure they're getting calcium in their diets and other nutrients in their diets too. But when you're eating those bones, it doesn't just have calcium. It has all the other proteins and nutrients and everything in the perfect ratios right there, the way you want them. So that can be a fantastic addition. And then also, that fish also has protein. Protein, like we said, is super, super important. A lot of people don't get enough protein, especially as we age. You need to be getting minimum, I would say. I mean, some people don't even get the bare minimum, which is probably about 0.545 grams per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 100 pounds, the minimum, and I shouldn't even say this is the minimum, but this is the minimum, about 55 grams of protein. What I suggest to people is you would try to get 30 grams of protein per meal, so you can help stimulate muscle protein synthesis also, right? Which is also muscle and bone, big interconnection there. So that's almost like insurance too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Karen, I was looking up Caltrate over here. Caltrate's got blue food coloring in it. Blue number 2. Number 2. Why in the world would you put a cancer-causing food coloring in it? Blue number 2 is calcium carbonate. It's also got polyethylene glycol. I mean, it's just a mess. You got to be so careful. I mean, there's a whole list here, and I can't copy and print it or post it, but it's bullshit. Honestly, is what, not necessarily Caltrate, what people put in their supplements.
You have to have good research-backed, supplements, ingredients without junk. I'm sure, Danny, you talk about this all the time. You do not want to be taking, especially something you're putting in your body every single day, over and over and over again. The downstream, the long-term effect of that is not going to be a good thing.
Absolutely not. And I tell people this: you don't ever ingest. You can buy my book on Amazon. You can buy your toilet paper on Amazon. You can buy whatever you want on Amazon, but do not buy your supplements on Amazon or any place that's big like that, because I mean, they're just not monitored. And so I get people who bring in supplements every week, and like, this is my little orange sparkling tonic can, but say it's one of the green. It's got, I think it's Nature Made, or I can't remember what the name of it. They bring their supplements in all the time, and they'll say, Danny, look at this. Absolutely, I own a supplement store, but I will definitely say, yeah, this is great. Use it. Whatever. I cannot tell you how much red food coloring is in fish oil that from that company, red food coloring, blue food coloring,
Mm,
caramel coloring, just BS stuff. And they're like, what, did he? And, or number one ingredient is some sort of, sugar or soy or whatever. It's just, it's a mess. So you got to be real
yeah.
careful. You can take all the supplements you want, but it's just like what he said. It's like your diet. It's not what you take in, it's what you absorb, right? And what if you're absorbing all these horrible supplements as well? And Cindy, look at that. I've been told to wear a weighted vest, 25 to 30 pounds, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. What do you think? Now,
Great
Cindy's
question.
a
Great,
tiny woman. When I say tiny, tiny.
great question. And do you have osteoporosis? Have you already had fractures? Give me a little bit more background there.
Cindy, you can share your history
If you're there, but while you're waiting, if you're still listening and you're typing this, what I would say is, in general, and I've we've got experts on our team. We've got
Yes.
experts that I've chatted with about this stuff. If somebody has low bone density already, combining heavier weight with usually going for a walk, endurance exercise, that's not always going to be the best thing. There are probably more effective interventions that you could be doing that are going to lead to a greater impact on your bone health. And that's making sure that, again, you're doing the right types of exercises. You're including the muscle strengthening stuff in that higher intensity range, 5 to 10 repetition range, doing some of those more important lifts that we were talking about earlier. That's the stuff that's going to be most impactful on your bone health. So I usually, especially if you're a tiny person, 25 to 30 pound weighted vest, that's a good amount. And I'm not sure what your bone health picture is right now, but especially if you've already got fractures or you've got osteoporosis, I would probably say no on that one.
Yeah. Rebecca, are you talking about, I guess, the infrared sauna? I don't know. I'm looking at my infrared sauna right here. I love it. I don't know if that helps your bones or not. I don't have a clue. I mean, it's not going to hurt your bones, I don't think. Is it?
Well, so with saunas also, there's not any direct studies on saunas and osteoporosis or saunas and the impact on bone health. Obviously, saunas have a lot of health benefits to them.
Yes.
If you are doing 30 minutes, or I don't even know what the number would be every day, and you're sweating excessively, remember, you're also losing electrolytes,
yes,
and minerals and nutrients when you're doing that. It's not just flushing out toxins. You're also releasing minerals and nutrients. If you are not replenishing those nutrients, that's going to be a problem too, right? Because then what happens is we have a deficit that's not being replenished. Then that can contribute, right? That could contribute to bone loss and osteoporosis if you're not replacing those nutrients. So, there are no direct studies with bone health and osteoporosis specifically, but it does kind of make sense, right? If you're losing those nutrients and you don't replace them, your body is going to tap into its largest mineral reserves that it has, which are the bones. So,
yeah. Okay. So we have already gone over, and I think we could talk 2 hours nonstop. What's your plan? What's a good bone health plan for us? How do we get started? And then we're also going to tell them all about your website and all. But what's a good plan?
And we'll give them a free gift here too in a minute.
Yes.
So the first thing, you have to identify and address root cause issues of bone loss. Don't make assumptions, make objective decisions. You have to know how to communicate with your doctors. You have to know what lab test to order. You have to know how to understand what those results mean when they come back. And you have to know what to do with those results when they get back too. And a lot of times when people get the results back and they're looking at them, and from the bone health perspective, you could have normal results. Normal is a really wide range.
You bet.
There can be patterns or things that are wrong within normal. Okay. So you have to understand what those things are. Then once you understand and address those issues that are contributing to bone loss and bone damage, the next piece is you have to restore the nutrients that you need through diet, digestion, and absorption. You got to nourish the body, because you can't possibly expect to rebuild something that's not there, right? So that's what we have to do in that second step. And then the third step is we have to make sure we're building strength of body, mind, and bone in a way that prevents fracture and injury. You got to reduce your stress, improve your sleep, optimize your hormones, dial in your exercise plan, and do all these things in a way that's going to help you prevent fracture and injury, not just now, but in the future. So that's really what a stronger bones plan looks like. And that's what's going to give you the best shot at an active future with the people you love most.
Dude, you got that one nailed down. I am posting this link up here right now for them for your master class.
So this is a free gift here to your audience, Danny, is what we're going to do. And I want everybody here, go sign up for it, watch it. This is going to walk through. So I gave an overview and we kind of jumped around to different topics. The Stronger Bones Masterclass is going to tell you step by step. It's going to outline that process in more detail. It's going to help you better understand this so that you can start getting confident in a plan for stronger bones. So that Danny's got a link for that. She'll drop it somewhere around here. Look for maybe show notes or something.
I just posted it up. It's up. It's everywhere. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. There we go. It's up.
Sign up for it. Watch it. And if it's helpful, I'm just hoping everybody got some value out of this, and this was really helpful for you, because this is a really important topic that, in my opinion, it doesn't get the attention it needs right now, but that's my job, right? I'm making sure it's going to get the attention it needs.
You guys hit your heart buttons, share this with your people, because if you think that he's incredible, and we want him back on here at some point. Once you guys do the master class and all that, maybe we'll have a group back here who shares how incredible this man is. I don't bring slacky people on here because my name is on this. I don't have a podcast. Kevin's got a podcast. I don't have a podcast, but I'm not going to bring somebody that's not going to bring you value. And our time is valuable, as is yours. So I appreciate you all being on here. Rebecca says, absolutely come back. Yes. And thank you. What a wonderful information. I can't wait to watch the masterclass. I can't wait for you to either.
Good stuff.
So, Kevin, you are the best. I can't wait to see you in October
yes.
out in Arizona. We're going to have a great time out there. But listen, I got something real serious to share with you all. You all know, you can't really see, but my shirt says, be the voice, stop suicide. I'm on the board for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And yesterday, it was July 15th. So the 988 National Mental Health Crisis Line went into effect across the United States. 988. You feel suicidal? You're having a mental health crisis? You're having any sort of breakdown? You no longer have to call 911 and wait for all that. You call 988. Share it. It's been all over my Instagram, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. It's all on all their pages, the websites. 988. Those of us in mental health work, those of us in suicide prevention work, have been waiting for this for years, and it finally went into effect this weekend. So that's huge. Next weekend, Sunday night service, is Queen of the Thrones, Dr. Marisol, and we are going to be talking castor oil, all things castor oil. We go from bone health to castor oil, and we're going to be talking about constipation and thyroid health and skin health and liver, everything with castor oil. So that's going to be fun. No, that's not next week. Is it next week? Yes, that's next week. The week after that is going to be me, and I'm going to be talking fatigue. So there we go. But what else was I going to say? Yeah, I'll be my own guest in 2 weeks talking about fatigue on here. And then our book is on sale. Wild and Well is actually on sale on Amazon. It was during the Prime thing, and they've kept it up there. You need to order the book. Remember, order your book, not your calcium, your D3, your fish oil on Amazon or K2, but you can order all of our books. Kevin, when are you putting a book out? You need a book.
I've been encouraged to do that about 3 or 4 times already in the past year. I haven't done it yet. I've got some other big projects I'm working on right now. It will happen at some point in the future, though.
Well, let me tell you something. All these women on here would read it, and you are a game changer, and you are changing the trajectory of generations of people's lives by teaching them about bone health and so much more. And I appreciate you so much. And I'm so grateful you're on here tonight. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate all of